they're not going to know that you're at the restaurant and you've been waiting for 10 minutes. And now you're asking for compensation. You won't get it. Hello, my fellow Canadian. You're here because you're either a courier for Skip the Dishes or you want to be a courier for Skip the Dishes and you want to get a little bit more information. I remember when I started with Skip the Dishes, I tried to get information out there and there's not a lot just because it's a Canadian company. So this is where I come in to give you some tips and tricks based on my experience with Skip the Dishes. Don't forget to stay until the end of this video because I'm going to give you some tips and tricks that can help you for any of the gig apps that you use. So let me know in the comments, what part of Canada are you in? One thing to keep in mind with Skip the Dishes is that you do have an acceptance rate. Unfortunately, at the time of recording this video, you cannot see the acceptance rate until you actually receive an order. But I can honestly let you know that acceptance rate does not really matter with Skip the Dishes. Yes, some people say that in their area, if you have a low acceptance rate, you're not going to get an offer. But I have had my acceptance rate go down to 0 and it jumped up to 60 or 80% in the exact same day, same shift, because it was busy. So if it's busy, they're going to send you the offer. So I believe that acceptance rate does not matter with Skip the Dishes. One of the perks that does come with a higher acceptance rate is the top-up pay. Now, this is where if you have above 80% acceptance with Skip, then they will top up your offer. So let's say you have an offer that comes in and it's just the transit pay. And let's say that transit pay is just $4.45. Then the offer is going to come in at $4.45. However, if you have the top up, Skip will top up that amount to a specific amount based on your area. In my area, the minimum is $8. So that means that Skip will add on the difference to make that offer now be $8. Personally speaking, it's not worth me taking a bunch of bad orders to make sure that my acceptance rate is above 80%, because really $8, it's still pretty low. One thing I love about the offer screen with Skip is that you get the customer's address, which is amazing. And if you click on the little directions, you can actually see how far is that customer from where you are located. Just keep that in mind. So you need to keep in mind, where is your restaurant versus where you are currently, and then how far is that to get to your customer's house. If you're going, 5 kilometers away, but it's going to another busy area, then that would be great. But if you're going 5 kilometers away and it's bringing you into the boonies, then you have to drive that extra 5 kilometers to come back to civilization. You might think differently about that offer. One thing that's super important with Skip is to make sure that you swipe parked at the restaurant when you get to the restaurant. Now, this is so important for many reasons, but specifically because if the restaurant takes long, this is one thing that's really good with Skip, they do pay you for the delay at the restaurant. It's not a lot. It's after 7 minutes, and sometimes you have to message them to fight for it. However, if you swipe park that restaurant, that's where the timer starts. If you forget to swipe that restaurant, they're not going to know that you're at the restaurant and you've been waiting for 10 minutes and now you're asking for compensation. You won't get it. So make sure that you swipe park that restaurant once you get to the restaurant, just in case you have to wait for your order. At least you're going to get some form of compensation. Scheduling is really important with Skip. They bring out their schedule a week ahead of time. Now, I personally rather schedule with Skip and then I check to see if there are any availabilities on days where I might not have scheduled or shifts that I might not have been able to schedule. But I always think that it's better to schedule and then you can drop your shift if need be. There is no repercussion for dropping a shift late. They make it seem like if you're the worst person in the world and they try to make you feel bad, but you can drop your shift very late. One thing to keep in mind with the schedule is that if you miss your schedule, meaning you don't check in and start your shift, Skip is going to remove your entire schedule for the next 24 hours. So what I like to do, because there are a lot of times that I have a scheduled book and I don't get to start it on time. So what I do is I start my shift and I pause it. With Skip, you can pause your entire shift. That's happened to me before. I was waiting for my boyfriend to come home and it just never happened. And my entire shift ended up being on pause because by the time he came home, it made no sense for me to go out. So then you just end your shift and that's perfectly fine. So with Skip, I love the fact that they do have the scheduling option, but I also love the fact that you can drop your shift and not have any repercussions, or you can end your shift early and not have any repercussions. If you've been liking the tips and tricks that you've heard in this video so far, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video. That would really help me to know that I'm providing you with information that's helpful for you and your business. The tips and tricks that I'm going to give you right now are going to cover all of these gig apps. Number one, we are independent contractors. That means that we do not work for these companies, we work with these companies. This is why you need to make sure that these companies are providing you with offers that satisfy your business requirements. So if the dollars per kilometer or dollars per mile is not satisfactory, do not accept it. If it's bringing you in a bad area, do not accept it. If you don't want to deal with that restaurant, do not accept it. You get to decide. Since this is a business, you want to make sure that you're keeping track of all of the expenses that you incur during the operation of your business so that you can claim all of the tax write-offs at the end of the year. If you don't know what you're doing, consult with a CPA, but I would highly suggest that you look into this either yourself or with a CPA to figure out what exactly are the tax advantages of owning a business and what can you claim as a tax write-off. Get to know your territory. Where are the restaurants where you're going to wait long? Where are the restaurants where the food is always ready? This would be really good information to know because then you will be better prepared to make really good financial decisions for your business. I highly suggest downloading the customer side of the app. There are a few reasons for this. Number one, you can see if there are any restaurants that are provided promos, because if there's a promo at a specific restaurant, then you know that that restaurant might be a little bit busier than they normally are. Another thing for that is that you would now know which restaurant is partnered with which app. Now, this is something that you might think is kind of like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go to a restaurant that I figure is with that app, but not all restaurants are linked with a specific app. So this is why it's really good to download the customer side of the application, because you can see, first of all, who do they deal with? And then you can see what promos that they have, what times do they close, what times do they open, and all of this can help you make the best decisions for your business. One very big tip that I can give you is do not rely on just one app. You do not want to put all of your eggs in one basket, just like you shouldn't have just one source of income. You should always try to diversify your sources of income. So the same thing goes with all of these apps. Do not just rely on one, because they can deactivate you very easily and then you have no recourses. You don't want to get deactivated or something happen to your account and then you have no other way to bring in any income to your household. So sign up with all of the apps that are possible. That doesn't necessarily mean drive with all of them at one time, but at least sign up with them just in case you need to pull them out of your back pocket. Now that you have all this information, you might be wondering, okay, but how do I actually complete an order with Skip the Dishes? What does the screen look like? Well, I highly suggest that you check out this video here, because then you'll be able to see a complete order from A to Z with Skip the Dishes. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye.